My mother-in-law said, "Happy birthday, honey. Although you are not my real grandchild because you were made in a lab, I still love you," on my daughter's birthday. Lily asked what grandma meant, and Gloria actually explained that real babies are made when mommies and daddies love each other, not in doctors' offices. My daughter cried for 3 hours, kept asking if she was fake, if we didn't love each other, if that's why grandma didn't bring her presents like she did for her other grandkids. My husband Nathan just stood there, didn't say a word to his mother. Told me later he didn't want to make a scene at a kid's party. We'd tried for 7 years to have Lily, 3 miscarriages, 4 failed IVF cycles, $90,000 in medical bills. I gave myself shots every morning for months. Had surgeries. Had procedures that made me sick for weeks. Gloria knew all of this. She watched us struggle. Watched us cry. Watched us almost give up. When Lily was finally born, Gloria barely visited. Always had excuses. Always too busy. But she'd drive 2 hours every weekend to see Nathan's brother's kids. Posted hundreds of photos of them online. Called them her precious angels. Lily wasn't in a single photo. Not one. I stopped going to family gatherings after the birthday party. Nathan would take Lily alone, but Gloria would ignore her. Give the other grandkids toys and candy right in front of her. Tell everyone how smart and special they were while Lily sat there watching. Nathan said his mom was just old-fashioned. Said she'd come around. Said I was being too sensitive. I focused on being the best mother I could be. Enrolled Lily in dance classes, art classes, science camps. She thrived. Won spelling bees. Made friends. Forgot about the grandmother who didn't want her. I went back to work as a pediatric nurse. Got promoted to charge nurse. Then nursing supervisor. Started making good money. Saved every penny I could for Lily's college fund. Nathan and I bought a bigger house in a better school district. Gloria never came to see it. 8 years passed. Lily stopped asking about grandma. Stopped wondering why she was different. She had my parents, who adored her. They flew in from Arizona every holiday. Called her every Sunday. Sent her letters and packages. Real grandparents who didn't care how she was conceived. Then last month, Gloria called Nathan crying. Her health was failing. She needed full-time care. The nice facilities cost $8,000 a month. She couldn't afford it on Social Security. Nathan's brother was broke from his divorce. We were her only hope. She actually used those words. Her only hope. Nathan wanted to help immediately. Said we had the money. Said it was the right thing to do. Said Lily would want us to be kind. I told him to invite his mother over to discuss it. Gloria showed up looking frail, playing up her weakness, hugging Nathan, thanking him for being such a good son. She didn't acknowledge me. Didn't ask about Lily. Just started talking about the retirement home she'd chosen. Ocean views, gourmet dining, physical therapy pool. She'd already toured it. Already put down a deposit. Already told them her son would be paying. That's when Lily walked in from school. She's 13 now. Tall and confident and smart. She looked at Gloria and said very politely, "Hello, Mrs. Henderson." Not Grandma, Mrs. Henderson. Gloria's face changed. She realized Lily didn't even call her Grandma anymore. She tried to recover. Started gushing about how big Lily had gotten. How pretty she was. How she had Nathan's eyes. Lily just stared at her. Then she turned to me and asked if she could go to her friend's house. I said yes. As she left, Gloria called after her, asking for a hug from her granddaughter. Lily stopped. Turned around. "I'm not your real grandchild, remember? I was made in a lab." Then she walked out. Gloria started sobbing. Real tears this time. Nathan was speechless. I stood up and handed Gloria a folder. Inside were screenshots of every family photo she'd posted without Lily. Every birthday she'd missed. Every Christmas she'd ignored us. 8 years of evidence that Lily wasn't her real grandchild. I also included a business card for the state's Medicaid office. "They can help you find an affordable facility," I said. "We won't be paying for anything." Gloria turned to Nathan begging. He was her son, her baby. How could he let his wife do this? Nathan looked at me, then at his mother. "You told our daughter she wasn't real," he said quietly. "You broke her heart when she was 5. Why should we fix yours now that you're 70? Gloria sat frozen on our couch, her hands gripping the armrests like she might fall through the floor. Tears ran down her cheeks and dripped onto her blouse. Nathan stared at the carpet, his jaw muscles working under his skin. I watched her face crumple as she finally understood what she'd broken. 8 years ago, she'd told my daughter she wasn't real. 8 years of ignoring Lily at family gatherings. 8 years of posting photos of her other grandchildren while pretending Lily didn't exist. Now Lily had thrown those exact words back at her, and Gloria couldn't hide behind excuses anymore. I felt something cold and satisfied settle in my chest watching her cry. She'd made my 5-year-old daughter sob for 3 hours. She'd made Lily ask if she was fake. Made her wonder if Nathan and I didn't love each other. This woman had watched us struggle through miscarriages and failed IVF cycles, and then rejected the miracle we'd fought so hard for. I stood up and walked to the front door. Gloria needed to leave. My voice came out steady and calm when I told her it was time to go. She looked at Nathan, her eyes begging him to save her. He didn't move for a long moment. Then he got up slowly and walked toward his mother. He didn't touch her or help her stand. He just waited by the door. Gloria pushed herself off the couch, her legs shaking. Nathan opened the door and stood there silent. She walked past him, still crying, and he closed the door behind her without saying anything. I heard her car start in the driveway. Nathan came back to the living room and sat down in the same spot. We didn't talk. The house felt strange and quiet. 20 minutes passed. I counted them on the clock above the fireplace. Nathan finally broke the silence. He told me he should have defended Lily at that birthday party. The words came out rough and low. He called himself a coward. Said he was ashamed it took 8 years for him to stand up to his mother. I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to tell him it was okay, but it wasn't okay. He'd let his mother hurt our daughter over and over, but he'd also just chosen us. He'd just walked his mother to the door and shut her out of our lives. That had to count for something. Lily came home 2 hours later. Her friend's mom dropped her off and she walked in through the garage door. She stopped when she saw us sitting in the living room in the same spots. Asked if Gloria was gone for good. Nathan nodded and said yes. Lily crossed the room fast and wrapped her arms around him. She told him she was proud of him for choosing their family. Nathan pulled her close and I saw his shoulders shake. He was crying but trying to hide it. I got up and put my arms around both of them. We stood there together for a long time. Lily pulled back first and asked if she could watch TV in her room. I said yes. She grabbed her backpack and headed upstairs. Nathan wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. We ordered pizza for dinner and ate it mostly in silence. Lily seemed lighter somehow. She laughed at something on her phone and showed it to me. A funny video her friend had sent. Normal teenage stuff. After she went to bed, Nathan and I stayed up talking. It was past midnight when he started explaining about his mother. How she'd raised him to never question her. How keeping peace was more important than being right. He talked about his childhood and the way Gloria controlled everything. Made him feel guilty for wanting anything different from what she wanted. He said watching Lily's face today when Gloria tried to hug her broke something inside him. Something that needed to break. He'd been carrying his mother's expectations his whole life. Putting her feelings before everyone else's. Even before his own daughter's. The clock in the kitchen showed 3 a.m. when we finally went to bed. I felt exhausted but also relieved. Like we'd been holding our breath for 8 years and could finally breathe again. The next morning, Nathan's phone started ringing at 7. Gloria's name lit up the screen. He ignored it. She called again. And again. By the time he got out of the shower, she'd called 15 times. He finally answered on the 16th call. Put it on speaker so I could hear. Gloria was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her words. She begged him to reconsider. Said she was sorry. Said she was wrong about everything. Nathan's voice stayed flat and calm. He told her the apology was 8 years too late. Then he hung up. She called back immediately, but he didn't answer. Over the next 3 days, Gloria called constantly. Left voicemails that went from apologizing to blaming me. One message said I'd turned Nathan against her. Another said she'd always known I was bitter about the IVF. A third claimed she'd tried to love Lily, but it was hard when the child was so cold to her. I listened to a few with Nathan. Made him hear how she still didn't get it. She was sorry she got caught, not sorry for what she'd done. She was upset about losing Nathan's money, not about hurting Lily. Every voicemail proved we'd made the right choice. Nathan's brother called on day 4. His voice came through angry and loud. Demanded to know why we were abandoning their mother in her time of need. Nathan explained calmly what Gloria had done to Lily. Started with the birthday party 8 years ago. Listed every time she'd ignored Lily while showering attention on his brother's kids. His brother cut him off. Said it was just old people saying dumb things. Called us cruel and heartless for holding a grudge. Nathan tried to explain again, but his brother hung up on him. I sat at my computer that night and researched Gloria's actual care options. Found several assisted living facilities that accepted Medicaid. Nice places with activities and decent food. Not ocean views and gourmet dining, but clean and safe. The websites explained that once Gloria qualified for Medicaid, her care would cost nothing out of pocket. I compiled all the information into an email. Added links to the facilities and instructions for the Medicaid application process. Sent it to Nathan's brother with a short message suggesting he help his mother since we wouldn't be involved. He didn't respond. Nathan went to work the next Monday looking tired. He came home that evening and told me he'd talked to his boss. The stress was affecting his work and he needed to explain why. His boss had listened to the whole story, then shared his own experience cutting off his abusive father 15 years ago. Told Nathan that protecting your children comes before honoring parents who don't deserve it. Said family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up and loves you right. Nathan seemed steadier after that conversation. Like hearing someone else validate our choice made it more real. I watched Nathan sleep that night. His face relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in years. The next morning, Lily came down for breakfast and poured herself cereal without saying much. She ate slowly, pushing the flakes around her bowl. I asked if she was okay and she nodded but didn't look up. Nathan left for work and Lily went to her room to get ready for school. I heard her close the door softly. That afternoon when she got home, she dropped her backpack by the door and stood there for a minute. I was folding laundry on the couch and she walked over and sat down next to me. She picked at a loose thread on her jeans. Then she asked if she could talk to her therapist about what happened with Gloria. I stopped folding mid-shirt. She hadn't been to therapy in 2 years. Not since we'd worked through her feelings about being different from other kids. I asked her why she wanted to go back now. She said standing up to Gloria felt good, but also made her remember being 5 and confused. Made her remember all the birthdays and holidays when Gloria were ignored her. I pulled out my phone right there and called Adriana Nash's office. The receptionist said Adriana had an opening in 3 days. I took it. Lily seemed relieved. She went upstairs to do homework and I finished the laundry, thinking about how trauma never really goes away completely. It just waits under the surface until something brings it back up. 3 days later, I drove Lily to Adriana's office in the medical building downtown. The waiting room had the same blue chairs and nature paintings on the walls. Adriana came out to get Lily and smiled at both of us. She asked if I wanted to join the session, but Lily said she wanted to talk alone first. I sat in the waiting room for 50 minutes, reading the same magazine article 3 times without absorbing a single word. When the door opened, Lily's eyes were red, but she looked calmer. Adriana asked me to come in for the last 10 minutes. We sat together on the couch while Adriana explained that Lily had done really well processing her feelings. She said Lily told her that standing up to Gloria felt powerful, but also brought back memories of being 5 and asking if she was fake. Adriana looked at Lily when she said healing isn't a straight line. Sometimes old wounds come back even when you think you've moved past them. That doesn't mean you're broken or weak. It means you're human. Lily nodded and wiped her eyes. Adriana scheduled another appointment for the following week. On the drive home, Lily asked if we could stop for ice cream. We sat in the parking lot eating our cones and she told me she was glad she went. Said it helped to talk to someone who understood. 3 weeks passed. Nathan stopped checking his phone constantly for Gloria's calls. Lily went to therapy twice more and seemed lighter each time. I went back to my normal work schedule at the hospital. Then one Tuesday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I was upstairs changing out of my scrubs. Nathan had just gotten home and was in the kitchen making coffee. I heard him walk to the door and open it. Then I heard Gloria's voice, shaky and thin, begging to talk to him. I came down the stairs fast. Nathan was blocking the doorway with his body. Gloria looked smaller than she had 3 weeks ago. Thinner. Her hair wasn't done. She wore an old sweater with a stain on the sleeve. She reached for Nathan's arm, but he stepped back. He told her very clearly that she wasn't welcome here, that she needed to leave. Gloria started crying and saying she was sorry, that she made a mistake, that she wanted to make things right. Nathan's voice stayed calm and firm. He said if she came back again, he would call the police for trespassing. Then he closed the door while she was still talking. I heard her crying on the porch for a few minutes before her car started and drove away. That evening, Nathan was on the phone in his office with the door mostly closed. I was making dinner when Lily came downstairs and stood in the kitchen doorway. She looked worried. Asked if everything was okay. I said yes and asked why she was asking. She said she heard Nathan on the phone and he sounded upset. She'd heard him mention Gloria's name and his brother's name, heard him raising his voice. She twisted her hands together and asked if we were causing problems in Nathan's family, if his brother was mad at us because of her. I turned off the stove and sat down at the kitchen table, told her to sit with me. I explained that Gloria caused these problems 30 seconds into her 5th birthday party when she told a little girl she wasn't real. That nothing happening now was Lily's fault. That adults make choices and those choices have results. Gloria chose to be cruel. We chose to protect Lily. Those were our choices, not hers. She nodded but still looked uncertain. I took her hand and told her she was never the problem. Not 8 years ago and not now. She squeezed my hand and said okay, but I could tell she was still processing it. The next day was Saturday, and I asked Lily if she wanted to go out for coffee, just the 2 of us. Nathan was planning to work in the garage anyway. We drove to the coffee shop downtown and got our drinks. Found a table by the window. I asked her how she was really doing with everything. Not the answer she thought I wanted to hear, but the truth. She stirred her hot chocolate for a long time before answering. Said she felt guilty sometimes. That she was the reason Nathan's family was falling apart. That if she'd never been born, none of this would be happening. I put my coffee down hard enough that it sloshed. Told her to look at me. I explained that Gloria's cruelty was the problem, not her existence. That Gloria had 8 years to be a grandmother and chose not to. That Nathan's brother had 8 years to speak up about how Gloria treated her and stayed silent. That every problem in Nathan's family existed long before Lily came along. I talked for almost an hour about how families are supposed to protect children, not hurt them. How love isn't conditional on how you were conceived or whether you share DNA. How she deserved better than what Gloria offered. By the end, Lily was crying but nodding. She said she understood, but it was hard to believe sometimes. I told her that was okay. Understanding takes time. Monday morning, Nathan's brother sent an email. Nathan showed it to me after work. The email was long and angry. Called us selfish and heartless. Said Gloria was getting worse without family support. That she was in some cheap facility now and hated it. That we had the money to help and were choosing not to. That he couldn't believe Nathan would abandon his own mother. Nathan sat at the computer for an hour writing a response. He made a detailed timeline of everything Gloria had done to Lily. Listed every birthday she missed. Every Christmas she ignored us. Every time she gave presents to his brother's kids while Lily watched. Every family photo that didn't include Lily. Every cruel comment. He attached screenshots from the folder I'd given Gloria. Sent the whole thing to his brother. Then he blocked his brother's email address. Deleted the contact from his phone. Came downstairs and told me he was done explaining himself to people who didn't want to understand. That same week, my parents called. They'd heard about what happened from my sister, who I'd told everything. My dad was on speaker. He said he'd been thinking about the situation a lot. Said something that stuck with me. He said real grandparents don't need a biological connection to love a child completely. That he and my mom loved Lily the second they met her. That it never mattered how she was conceived. That Gloria never deserved the title of grandmother. That she threw it away when Lily was 5 years old and could never earn it back. My mom added that they were proud of how Nathan and I handled things. That protecting Lily was the right choice even when it was hard. After we hung up, I sat on the couch feeling grateful that my parents understood what real grandparent love looked like. 4 weeks after the confrontation with Gloria, I noticed Nathan seemed different. Lighter somehow. Like he'd been carrying a heavy weight for years and finally put it down. He smiled more. Laughed at Lily's jokes. Came home from work and actually relaxed instead of checking his phone constantly. One night after Lily went to bed, I asked him about it. He said he'd been sleeping better than he had in months, that he felt like he could breathe fully for the first time in years, that cutting his mother out of our lives had removed a constant source of stress he didn't even realize was there. He said he used to wake up in the middle of the night worrying about the next family gathering, the next time Gloria would hurt Lily, the next time he'd have to choose between his mother and his daughter. Now he didn't have to choose anymore. The choice was made and he felt free. Lily came home from the school the next week with a permission slip. She handed it to me while I was making dinner. It was for a science museum trip that cost $200. I read through the details and told her it sounded great. She asked if we could afford it and I said of course. She smiled and started filling out the form. I watched her write her name and realized this was the first time in years she'd asked for something expensive without hesitating. Usually she'd mention the cost multiple times, ask if we were sure, offer to skip it. This time she just asked once and accepted my answer. I understood then that she'd been unconsciously holding back requests for years, that some part of her had internalized Gloria's message that she was expensive and not worth the investment, that her very existence had cost us $90,000 and endless pain. Watching her fill out that permission slip without guilt made my chest tight. I called Adriana's office the next day and scheduled a family therapy session for all three of us. We went on Saturday morning. Adriana had us sit together on the couch in her office. She asked Nathan to talk about his feelings first. He was quiet for a long time before he started. Said he regretted not protecting Lily sooner. That he should have confronted his mother at that birthday party 8 years ago. That he let Lily suffer because he was too scared to stand up to Gloria. His voice cracked when he talked about watching Lily cry for 3 hours, asking if she was fake. Adriana turned to Lily and asked how that made her feel. Lily looked at Nathan and said she was angry at him for all those years of silence, that she needed him to defend her and he didn't, that she'd felt alone even though she had 2 parents. Nathan started crying. Lily started crying. I started crying. We sat there together in that office, letting out 8 years of pain and regret and anger. Adriana handed us tissues and told us this was good, that we were finally saying things that needed to be said, that healing required honesty even when it hurt. We spent the rest of the therapy session working through specific memories and feelings. Adriana had us do an exercise where we each shared one thing we needed from the others. Lily said she needed to know we would always choose her over anyone who hurt her. Nathan promised her we would. I said I needed Nathan to understand why I documented everything for 8 years. He nodded and told me he got it now, that I was protecting our family when he wasn't strong enough to do it himself. When we left Adriana's office, we went out for lunch together. Lily ordered the most expensive thing on the menu without asking if it was okay first. Nathan and I exchanged a look across the table and smiled. That week, Nathan started writing in a notebook every night after Lily went to bed. He'd sit at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and fill pages with his thoughts. I didn't ask what he was writing. He told me on his own after about 5 days. He said he was writing a letter to Gloria that he'd never send. Just getting his feelings out on paper so they'd stop circling in his head. One night he read me parts of it. He wrote about growing up scared of disappointing her. About always trying to earn her approval and never quite managing it. About watching her reject Lily and feeling paralyzed because standing up to his mother meant admitting she was cruel. He wrote that he finally understood his mother's approval wasn't worth what it cost. That protecting Lily mattered more than keeping peace with someone who broke his daughter's heart. I listened to him read and felt something shift between us. He was finally seeing Gloria clearly, instead of through the filter of wanting her to be different. 3 days later, Nathan's phone rang during dinner. He looked at the screen and his expression changed. He answered and walked into the other room. I heard his voice through the wall, calm and firm. When he came back, he told us it was Gloria's retirement home. Her deposit was expiring and they wanted to know about payment arrangements. Nathan had told them clearly he wouldn't be paying anything. He suggested they contact Gloria about Medicaid options instead. Then he asked them to add our number to their do not call list. Lily asked if Gloria would be okay, and Nathan said she'd be fine, that there were good facilities she could afford with government help. He said it matter-of-factly, like he was discussing a stranger's situation instead of his mother's future. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. The next Saturday I went grocery shopping alone. I was in the produce section picking out apples when someone tapped my shoulder. I turned around and saw Nathan's cousin Rebecca standing there. I'd met her maybe twice at family gatherings years ago. She started talking immediately, her voice loud enough that other shoppers turned to look. She said she'd heard what we did to Gloria, that we were refusing to help her when she needed us most. That family takes care of family no matter what. She went on about how Gloria was elderly and sick and we were abandoning her. I let her finish. Then I pulled out my phone and opened the folder I'd shown Gloria. I scrolled through the screenshots of family photos without Lily. The birthday parties Lily wasn't invited to. The Christmas cards that came addressed only to Nathan. I showed Rebecca the dates. 8 years of documentation. Rebecca's face went pale as she looked at the evidence. She stopped talking mid-sentence. She looked at me and said she didn't know. She said she was sorry and walked away without another word. I finished my shopping feeling oddly calm. The evidence spoke for itself. I didn't need to defend our choices to anyone. 2 weeks later, Lily brought home her report card. All A's. She'd made the honor roll again. She showed it to us at dinner and asked if we could celebrate with just our family. She meant us and my parents. Not Nathan's side. Not his brother or his brother's kids. Just the people she considered real family. Nathan looked at me and I saw his eyes get wet. Lily was drawing her own boundaries now, defining family on her terms. It broke my heart a little because she was only 13 and already understood that blood didn't automatically mean love. But it also made me proud. She was choosing people who showed up for her instead of waiting for people who never would. We called my parents that night and they booked flights to come visit the following weekend. We took Lily to her favorite restaurant and my dad made a toast about how proud he was of his brilliant granddaughter. Lily beamed the whole night. The next Monday, a certified letter arrived addressed to Nathan. He opened it at the kitchen table and his face went hard as he read. He handed it to me without saying anything. It was from a lawyer representing Gloria. The letter threatened legal action to compel financial support for her care. It cited filial responsibility laws and claimed Nathan had a legal obligation to pay for his mother's medical needs. The letter demanded we contact them within 10 days to arrange payment or face a lawsuit. Nathan called a lawyer that afternoon. We met with Alec Ridley 2 days later in his office downtown. He read the letter and actually laughed. He explained that our state didn't have filial responsibility laws. Adult children had zero legal obligation to pay for parents' care. The threat was completely empty. Gloria's lawyer was either incompetent or hoping we wouldn't check. Alec said we could ignore the letter entirely, or he could send a response explaining why the claim had no merit. Nathan chose the response. He wanted it in writing that we owed Gloria nothing. The lawyer's letter had the opposite effect of what Gloria intended. Instead of scaring Nathan into helping her, it made him angry. He came home from work the next day and told me he was done feeling guilty. He said he'd spent weeks questioning whether we were doing the right thing, wondering if we were being too harsh, but threatening to sue us for protecting our daughter from someone who deliberately hurt her crossed a line. He stood straighter when he said it, like something heavy had lifted off his shoulders. He said he was finished letting his mother manipulate him with guilt and obligation, that he'd given her 8 years to apologize to Lily and make things right, and she'd chosen pride over her granddaughter every single time. I told him I was proud of him, and I meant it. That Friday, my friend Helena stopped by the hospital during my lunch break. We grabbed coffee in the cafeteria, and she asked how I was handling everything with Gloria. I admitted I felt vindicated, but also sad that it came to this. That some part of me had hoped Gloria would eventually come around and be the grandmother Lily deserved. Helena reminded me that I'd given Gloria 8 years. 8 years of chances to show up, to apologize, to love Lily the way she loved her other grandkids. Gloria had chosen her pride every single time. Helena said I had nothing to feel guilty about, that protecting Lily from someone who called her fake was exactly what a good mother should do. I thanked her and went back to work feeling lighter. That weekend, Lily sat at the kitchen table with college brochures spread out in front of her. She was only 13, but she was already researching schools and programs. She talked about studying marine biology or environmental science, about schools in California near the ocean, or programs in Colorado with field research opportunities. She talked with an excitement I hadn't seen before, like she was finally letting herself dream big. Nathan and I listened to her and realized something. She'd been holding back her dreams for years. Some part of her had believed Gloria's message that she wasn't worth investing in, that she was expensive and difficult and not quite real. But now she was planning a future without that weight. She was letting herself want things and believe she deserved them. Monday afternoon, Nathan's phone rang with an unknown number. He answered and put it on speaker. A man introduced himself as Wayne Stevens, a social worker helping Gloria with her care placement. He asked if we'd participate in a family meeting to discuss Gloria's needs and care options. Nathan politely declined. He explained we weren't involved in Gloria's care decisions and wouldn't be participating in any meetings. He gave Wayne his brother's contact information and said to direct all future questions there. Wayne thanked him and hung up. Nathan deleted the number from his call log and went back to making dinner. The next day at work, Nathan's friend Gustavo pulled him aside during lunch. Gustavo said he'd been watching Nathan handle the situation with his mother, and he admired how Nathan set boundaries. Gustavo shared that he wished he'd done the same with his own toxic family years ago. He said he'd let his parents treat his wife badly for decades because he was afraid of conflict. Now his kids were grown, and they'd watched their mother be disrespected their whole lives. They'd learned that keeping peace mattered more than protecting the people you love. Gustavo said he regretted not being stronger sooner. Nathan told me about the conversation that night and said it confirmed what he already knew, that protecting Lily now mattered more than any relationship with Gloria ever could. 2 months after we told Gloria no, Lily came home from the school with a stack of emergency contact forms. She dropped her backpack on the kitchen floor and spread the papers across the table. Nathan was making dinner and I was checking work emails when she asked if we could change the emergency contacts to list my parents instead of Gloria. Nathan turned from the stove immediately and walked over to the table. He picked up a pen without saying anything and started crossing out Gloria's name on every single form. His pen moved fast and hard across the paper, black lines covering his mother's information completely. I watched him write my parents' names and their Arizona phone number in neat block letters. Lily stood next to him and put her hand on his shoulder while he worked through the entire stack. When he finished the last form, he capped the pen and looked at our daughter. He told her she should have people who actually care about her listed as emergency contacts, not someone who made her cry when she was 5. Lily hugged him and went upstairs to do homework. Nathan stayed at the table staring at the forms for a few minutes before going back to finish cooking. The next week, I found Nathan in our bedroom looking through an old photo album from before Lily was born. He was sitting on the edge of the bed with the album open on his lap, flipping slowly through pictures of family gatherings and holidays. I sat down next to him and saw photos of Gloria holding his brother's kids, smiling at birthday parties, opening Christmas presents with her other grandchildren. Nathan pointed to one picture where Gloria was laughing with his brother's oldest daughter on her lap. He said he remembered that day and how happy his mom looked. He told me he spent years believing Gloria would eventually look at Lily that way, that she'd come around and be the grandmother he hoped for. His voice got quiet when he said he was mourning the mother he wished he had, not the one he actually had. He said that was an important thing to understand for his healing, that he needed to stop grieving for a person who never existed. I put my arm around him and we sat there looking at those old photos together for almost an hour. He closed the album and put it back in the closet and said he didn't need to look at it anymore. 3 weeks later, a birthday card arrived in the mail addressed to Lily. The return address had Gloria's name on it. Lily brought it to me in the kitchen, holding it like it might explode. She asked what she should do with it. I opened the envelope carefully and found a card with flowers on the front and a check for $50 tucked inside. The message said she loved Lily and hoped she was doing well in the school. Lily read it over my shoulder and her face didn't change at all. She asked if we should keep the money or send it back. I told her we should return it unopened and let Gloria know we don't want any more contact. Lily nodded and we put the card and check back in the envelope. I wrote a short note on plain paper requesting no further contact and sealed everything in a new envelope. We walked to the mailbox together and Lily dropped it in herself. She didn't seem upset or angry, just matter of fact about the whole thing. On the walk back to the house, she asked if we could get pizza for dinner and started talking about her science project. The card from Gloria didn't take up any more space in her head than that. 4 days after we returned the card, Nathan's phone rang with a number he didn't recognize. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. His brother's voice came through the speaker, sounding tired and apologetic. Nathan put the phone on speaker so I could hear. His brother said he was calling from Gloria's phone because she'd asked him to reach out. He told Nathan that Gloria was in a decent facility now, a Medicaid place that was clean and had good staff. He said she was doing okay physically, getting her medications managed and eating regular meals. Then his voice changed and he said he needed to apologize. He told Nathan he didn't understand how badly Gloria had treated Lily until he saw all the evidence Nathan sent him. He said he'd been going through old family photos and realized Lily wasn't in any of them. He counted birthday parties and Christmas gatherings and summer barbecues, and Lily was missing from every single one. He said he felt sick looking at those pictures and understanding what his mother had done for 8 years straight. His voice cracked when he said he was sorry for not seeing it sooner and for calling us cruel when we refused to pay for Gloria's care. Nathan listened without interrupting, and when his brother finished talking, there was silence for a long moment. Nathan told his brother he appreciated the apology, and it meant something that he finally understood. His brother asked if there was any chance of reconciliation with Gloria, and Nathan said no immediately. He explained that Gloria had 8 years to fix what she broke and she chose not to, so now she has to live with losing access to their family. His brother was quiet, and then said he understood and respected that decision. He asked if maybe the two of them could get coffee sometime, just the brothers without their mother involved. Nathan looked at me and I nodded. He told his brother they could try that, maybe in a few weeks when things settled down. His brother thanked him and said he'd call again soon to set something up. After they hung up, Nathan sat with his phone in his hand for a while. He said it felt strange to have his brother finally see the truth, like a door opening that he'd thought was permanently sealed. I asked if he thought they could rebuild their relationship, and he said maybe, but only if Gloria stayed completely out of it. That evening, Lily came downstairs while Nathan and I were watching TV. She sat between us on the couch and asked if Nathan's decision about Gloria meant she'd never have a grandmother on his side of the family. Nathan turned off the TV and shifted to face her directly. He told her that Gloria had 8 years to be a grandmother and chose not to be one. He said Gloria could have brought presents to her birthday parties and visited our house and called on Sundays like real grandparents do. He explained that Gloria made a choice every single day for 8 years to exclude Lily and treat her like she didn't matter. Nathan's voice was steady when he said that now Gloria doesn't get to claim the role of grandmother just because it's convenient for her, or because she needs something from us. Lily listened carefully and asked if that made her different from other kids who had grandparents on both sides. Nathan told her she wasn't different. She just had grandparents who deserved her, meaning my parents who flew in from Arizona and sent letters and called every week. He said family isn't about DNA, it's about who shows up and loves you without conditions. Lily seemed satisfied with that answer and asked if we could watch a movie together. We spent the rest of the evening on the couch eating popcorn and not talking about Gloria at all. The following Monday, my supervisor called me into her office at the hospital. She closed the door and told me to sit down, which made my heart race because that usually meant bad news. Instead, she smiled and said the director position had opened up, and they wanted to offer it to me. The job came with a significant raise, better benefits, and my own office. I sat there stunned for a minute before accepting. She congratulated me and said I'd earned it through years of hard work and dedication. I called Nathan from my car during lunch break and told him about the promotion. He got excited immediately and said we should celebrate as a family. He suggested taking a vacation somewhere special, somewhere we'd never been before. When I got home that evening, Lily was already researching vacation destinations on her laptop, She had tabs open for beaches in California, mountains in Colorado, theme parks in Florida. She talked fast and happy about all the possibilities, showing me pictures and reading reviews out loud. Her excitement reminded me so much of the little girl she used to be before Gloria hurt her, and I felt grateful that we'd protected her enough for that joy to come back. Nathan and I sat with her looking at travel websites until almost midnight, making lists and comparing prices and dreaming about places we could go together. We decided on Disney World for spring break after Lily spent 3 days making a detailed case for why it was the best choice. She created a spreadsheet with park hours and ride wait times and restaurant reservations. Nathan booked our hotel and park tickets on a Saturday morning while Lily watched over his shoulder making sure he got everything right. The next week at the school, Lily told her friends about the trip during lunch. One of her friends asked if her grandma was coming too, the way some families bring grandparents on big vacations. Lily said simply that her real grandparents live in Arizona and might meet them there. Her friend asked about her other grandma, and Lily said she didn't have another one, just the Arizona grandparents who actually cared about her. She told me about the conversation later without any sadness in her voice, just stating facts the way you'd explain that you have brown hair, or that you're left-handed. I realized she'd completely internalized the truth that Gloria wasn't her grandmother in any meaningful sense, that the title meant nothing without the love and effort behind it. 2 weeks before our trip, my parents called and said they wanted to fly to Florida and spend 3 days with us at Disney. My mom said they'd been planning to visit anyway, and this seemed like perfect timing. We coordinated schedules and booked them a room at our hotel. The morning we arrived in Florida, my parents were waiting in the lobby with Mickey Mouse ears and huge smiles. My dad picked Lily up in a hug, even though she's 13 and almost as tall as him. We spent 3 days going on rides and eating overpriced food and taking a million pictures. I watched my dad hold Lily's hand on Space Mountain, even though she's old enough to ride alone, and I saw my mom buy her a stuffed animal, even though Lily said she didn't need it. On our last night, we were walking back to the hotel after watching the fireworks, and Nathan stopped to take a photo of my dad and Lily. They were laughing about something, and my dad had his arm around her shoulders. Nathan showed me the picture and said this is what grandparent love is supposed to look like. This easy affection and joy and showing up. I saved that photo as my phone background, and every time I look at it, I feel grateful that Lily knows what real grandparents are. The week after we got back from Florida, Nathan met his brother for coffee at a place halfway between our houses. He was gone for almost 4 hours. When he came home, he looked tired but lighter somehow. He told me they talked about their childhood and their mother for 3 solid hours. His brother admitted he always got special treatment growing up and never questioned it because it benefited him. He said he watched Nathan get criticized and blamed for things while he got praised for the same behavior. He told Nathan he was sorry for not seeing the pattern and for not standing up for him back then. They talked about Gloria's treatment of Lily, and his brother said he finally understood it was part of a bigger pattern of favoritism and cruelty that had been happening their whole lives. He said he was sorry he didn't see what Gloria was doing to Lily until Nathan spelled it out with 8 years of documented evidence. Nathan said his brother cried at one point, really cried, about missing so much time with Lily because he'd been blind to their mother's behavior. They agreed to meet again in 2 weeks and to start building a relationship separate from Gloria. Nathan said it felt good to have his brother back, or maybe to have him for the first time in a real and honest way. The next week, Nathan drove to meet his brother at that same coffee shop halfway between our houses. He left right after breakfast, and I told him to take his time, that this conversation mattered more than rushing home. He came back 4 hours later looking different somehow, like he'd put down something heavy he'd been carrying for years. His brother had cried again, he told me. Real crying this time about all the years they lost because of their mother's games. They made a plan to see each other once a month, just the 2 of them at first, to rebuild what they should have had all along. His brother promised he'd never bring up Gloria or try to guilt us into reconciling. He said he understood now that some choices leave permanent marks, and Gloria's cruelty to Lily was one of those choices. Nathan seemed lighter after that, like he'd gotten his brother back without the weight of their mother's expectations crushing everything. 2 weeks later, we had our first family therapy session in months. Lily hadn't wanted to go back to therapy after we stopped regular sessions, but she agreed to this one meeting because Adriana had specifically asked to see all 3 of us together. We sat in that familiar office with the soft chairs and the box of tissues on the side table. Adriana looked at Lily and told her she'd processed the trauma in a really healthy way, that she was building good boundaries and knew her own worth. She said most kids who go through what Lily went through carry shame or confusion for years, but Lily had worked through it and come out stronger. Then Adriana turned to us and said our decision to protect Lily from more harm was probably the most important thing we could have done for her healing. She said children need to see their parents choose them over people who hurt them, even when those people are family. Nathan reached over and took my hand during that part. Lily sat there looking proud of herself, and I realized she really had healed in ways I didn't fully understand until that moment. 3 months after the confrontation with Gloria, Nathan and I were getting ready for bed when he stopped and just stood there staring at nothing. I asked him what was wrong, and he said he still felt guilty sometimes about his mother being alone in that facility. Then he said he remembers Lily's face when Gloria tried to hug her and called her granddaughter, how Lily went completely still before she walked away. He said that memory shows up every time the guilt starts creeping in, and it erases any doubt about whether we made the right choice. He said he can live with his mother being disappointed in him, but he couldn't live with himself if he'd let her keep hurting Lily just to keep peace. I told him I was proud of him for finally choosing our daughter, and he said he wished he'd done it 8 years sooner at that birthday party. A week later, Nathan's brother called and said Gloria had written a letter she wanted to send to us. His brother read it over the phone, and it was Gloria asking if she could see Lily one more time to apologize the right way. She said she understood now what she'd done wrong and wanted a chance to make it right. Nathan told his brother we'd talk to Lily and let her decide. We sat down with Lily that night after dinner and showed her the letter. She read it twice, not saying anything, then folded it up and put it on the table. She said she needed to think about it. For 2 days she was quiet, clearly working through something in her head. Finally she came to us and said no. She didn't want to see Gloria or hear any apologies. She said she didn't need excuses or explanations. She just wanted to move forward with her life. She said Gloria had 8 years to apologize and didn't. So now it was too late. I watched her say all this with complete confidence, no hesitation, and I knew she'd made the right choice for herself. Nathan called his brother the next day and told him Lily's decision. He said Lily gets to choose who has access to her, and Gloria lost that right when she told a 5-year-old she wasn't real. His brother didn't argue or try to change our minds. He just said he understood and he'd tell Gloria the answer was no. Then he promised he wouldn't pass along any more messages from Gloria about wanting to reconcile or apologize. He said he respected Lily's boundaries and wouldn't pressure us anymore. Nathan thanked him for understanding, and I could hear the relief in his voice that his brother was finally on our side instead of their mother's. I spent that weekend organizing all the evidence from the folder into a proper document on my computer. Screenshots of every Facebook post without Lily, records of every missed birthday and Christmas, notes about every family gathering where Gloria were ignored our daughter. I saved it all in a secure file with backups because I wanted Lily to have it someday, if she ever doubted that we protected her. Nathan saw what I was doing and asked if he could add something. He wrote his own account of what happened, page after page about his regret for not standing up to his mother sooner, and what he learned from failing to protect Lily when she was little. He wrote about watching me document everything and realizing I'd been the strong one all along, keeping records while he made excuses. He saved his writing in the same file as my evidence, and we locked it all away for Lily to read when she's older and needs to understand the full story. The following week, Lily had an assignment for English class to write an essay about family. She worked on it for 3 nights, writing and rewriting until she got it exactly right. When she was done, she showed it to us before turning it in. The essay said that family isn't about DNA or biology. It's about people who show up and love you without conditions. She wrote about my parents flying in from Arizona every holiday and calling every Sunday, and she wrote about how those were her real grandparents even though we weren't related by blood. She never mentioned Gloria by name, but the whole essay was clearly about choosing the people who choose you back. Her teacher gave her an A and wrote a note at the top saying it was one of the most grown-up ways of thinking about family she'd seen from a middle school student. Lily brought the essay home proud, and we put it on the refrigerator next to her honor roll certificate. Nathan and I celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary the next month with dinner at the restaurant where we had our rehearsal dinner. We sat at a table by the window and talked about everything we'd been through in 15 years. The fertility treatments and the money and the heartbreak before Lily was born. The years of watching his mother reject our daughter while he stayed silent. The moment everything changed when Gloria showed up asking for money. Nathan held my hand across the table and told me he was grateful I never let him sacrifice our daughter for his mother's approval. He said I was stronger than him and always had been, that I knew how to protect Lily when he was too scared to stand up to Gloria. I reminded him that he made the right choice when it really mattered. At that moment in our living room when Gloria was begging and crying, I told him that's what Lily will remember, not the years before when he was still figuring out how to be brave. We got a Christmas card from Nathan's brother in December with a photo of his kids on the front. Inside, he'd written a short note saying Gloria was stable in her Medicaid facility and had started seeing a therapist there. He said she was doing okay physically and seemed to be working through some things mentally. He didn't ask us to visit or reconcile or forgive her. He just updated us like family updates family, keeping us informed without expecting anything from us. Nathan pinned the card to our bulletin board in the kitchen, and I noticed he put it next to a photo of Lily instead of hiding it away. It felt like a healthy boundary, acknowledging his brother's family existed without letting Gloria back into our lives. Right after New Year's, Lily asked if we could invite Nathan's brother and his kids to her birthday party in February. She said she missed having cousins around and wanted to get to know them better now that the adults had worked things out. Nathan called his brother that night to make sure Gloria wouldn't somehow be involved or show up uninvited. His brother promised this would be completely separate from Gloria, that he understood the boundaries and would never bring her around Lily. He said his kids had been asking about Lily too, wanting to spend time with their cousin without all the family drama getting in the way. Nathan agreed to the birthday party invitation, and I watched him smile while making the plans, happy that his daughter would have cousins in her life even if she didn't have a grandmother. The birthday party happened on a Saturday afternoon in early March. Nathan's brother showed up with his 2 kids around noon, carrying a store-bought cake and a wrapped present. His daughter was 9 and his son was 11, both quiet and polite when they walked in. Lily answered the door and stood there for a second before saying hi. The kids looked at each other awkward and unsure what to do next. Nathan stepped in and suggested they all go to the basement where we'd set up games and decorations. The adults stayed upstairs while the kids disappeared downstairs, and I could hear them talking in careful voices at first. Then someone laughed, then more laughing. Within 20 minutes, they were running around playing video games and arguing about who got to pick the next song. Nathan's brother sat at the kitchen table with us drinking coffee. He told us his kids had been nervous about coming, worried Lily wouldn't like them because of everything that happened with Gloria. I told him Lily was just happy to have cousins who wanted to know her. We called the kids up an hour later for pizza and cake. Lily sat at the head of the table with her cousins on either side, and they sang happy birthday while she smiled bigger than I'd seen in months. She blew out the candles in one breath and everyone clapped. Nathan's brother's daughter asked what she wished for, and Lily said, "You're not supposed to tell or it won't come true." His son said that was dumb and wishes weren't real anyway, and Lily laughed and said maybe, but she was keeping it secret just in case. We ate cake and opened presents. Nathan's brother had bought her a science kit, something about growing crystals, and Lily's eyes lit up when she opened it. She thanked him 3 times and asked if his kids wanted to help her start it later. They said yes. Nobody mentioned Gloria. Nobody asked why there was no grandmother there. The kids understood somehow. Or maybe their dad had explained it before they came. Either way, the party felt light and easy, like birthdays should feel. After we cleaned up the cake plates, the kids went back downstairs, and Nathan's brother helped us carry trash to the garage. He stopped halfway there and turned to look at us. He said he needed to tell us something before they left. We stood there in the garage holding garbage bags while he gathered his words. He said watching Lily today, seeing how confident and happy she was, made him understand what we'd been protecting her from all these years. He said he'd been thinking about it wrong, focusing on Gloria being old and alone instead of remembering what she did to a 5-year-old child. He thanked us for giving him a chance to be in Lily's life, despite his initial reaction when we refused to help Gloria. He said his kids had been asking about their cousin for years, and he was ashamed he'd let Gloria's attitude keep them apart for so long. Nathan shook his hand and said family was complicated, but we were glad they came today. His brother nodded and said they'd like to do this more often if we were open to it. Regular cousin time, no drama, no Gloria. We agreed. They left an hour later with the kids exchanging phone numbers and making plans to text. Lily waved from the porch until their car disappeared down the street. 4 months after the confrontation with Gloria, I found Nathan in his office staring at something in his hand. I walked closer and saw it was the business card I'd given Gloria for the Medicaid office. The edges were worn like he'd been holding it a lot. He looked up when I came in and set the card down on his desk. He told me he'd been thinking about that day, about how I'd prepared that folder of evidence and had everything ready before Gloria even arrived. He said he was proud of how I handled it, that I was strong enough to set boundaries he should have set years before. He admitted he'd spent too long trying to keep everyone happy, trying to be a good son to a mother who didn't deserve his loyalty. He said watching me protect Lily taught him what real strength looked like. It wasn't about avoiding conflict or keeping peace. It was about knowing what mattered and defending it no matter who got upset. He picked up the card again and turned it over in his hands. He said he used to feel guilty every time he looked at it, like he'd failed his mother by not helping her. But now when he looked at it, he felt grateful that I'd been brave enough to do what he couldn't. I sat down next to him and reminded him that he made the right choice when it counted. He backed me up in that living room when Gloria was crying and begging. That's what Lily would remember. He nodded but said he wished he'd done it sooner, wished he'd protected her from those 8 years of rejection and favoritism. I told him we couldn't change the past, but we'd made sure the future would be different. He put the card in his desk drawer and closed it. Then he hugged me and said he'd learned more about being a good parent from watching me than from anything his own parents taught him. Lily started volunteering at the community center in May. She signed up to help younger kids with their homework twice a week after school. I drove her the first few times and watched through the window as she sat with a 7-year-old girl struggling with math problems. Lily was patient, explaining things 3 different ways until the girl understood. The next week she worked with a boy who seemed sad and quiet, barely looking up from his worksheet. Lily talked to him gently, asked him questions about his favorite games and movies, got him to smile before they even started the homework. I recognized what she was doing. She was finding the kids who felt left out, the ones who seemed lonely or different, and she was making sure they felt included. She was using what Gloria did to her to help other kids who might be feeling the same way. I watched her high-five the quiet boy when he finished his math problems, watched her tell the girl she was really smart and just needed practice. My eyes filled up sitting there in my car. Nathan picked her up that day and she talked the whole drive home about the kids she was helping. She said there was one girl whose parents were always late to pick her up and she seemed embarrassed about it. Lily had started staying late with her so she wouldn't have to wait alone. Nathan looked at me when we got home and I could tell he was thinking the same thing I was. Our daughter had taken her pain and turned it into kindness. She could have become bitter or closed off after what Gloria did. Instead, she became someone who noticed when other kids hurt and tried to make it better. That night after Lily went to bed, Nathan and I talked about how proud we were. Proud that she made honor roll or won spelling bees, though those things mattered. Proud that she was growing into someone who used her own hard experiences to help others. Proud that Gloria's cruelty hadn't made her cruel. It made her more aware, more careful with other people's feelings. We'd protected her from more damage, but the damage that was already done had somehow made her stronger and kinder, instead of breaking her. Nathan's brother called on a Tuesday evening while I was making dinner. Nathan answered, and I watched his face change as he listened. He nodded a few times and said his brother handled it well. After he hung up, Nathan told me Gloria had a health scare 2 days ago. Nothing serious, just high blood pressure and dehydration. His brother took her to the hospital and stayed with her until she was stable. He got her medications adjusted and made sure the facility staff knew what to watch for. Nathan thanked him for not involving us and asked how his kids were doing instead. They talked for over an hour about normal things. His nephew made the baseball team. His niece got accepted to a gifted program at the school. Nathan laughed at stories about their family camping trip. I listened to him chat easily with his brother. No tension in his voice. No guilt weighing down his words. When he finally said goodbye, he looked lighter somehow. 6 months after the confrontation, Adriana told us we could stop regular sessions. She sat across from Nathan and me in her office and said we'd process the major issues. Lily was thriving at the school and at home. Nathan had worked through his guilt about not protecting Lily sooner. I'd released the anger I carried for 8 years. The bitterness that used to sit heavy in my chest whenever I thought about Gloria. Adriana said we should be proud of the work we'd done as a family. She reminded us that setting boundaries wasn't cruel, it was necessary. We scheduled one final session for next month just to check in, but she said we didn't need weekly appointments anymore. Nathan held my hand as we walked to the car. He said therapy saved our family, helped us understand what we needed to do and why it mattered. Lily came home from the school on a Friday afternoon and dropped her backpack by the door. She grabbed an apple from the kitchen and told me about her day while she ate. One of her friends asked about her grandmother during lunch. Lily explained simply that her grandmother made bad choices and wasn't part of their lives anymore. She said it the same way she might mention not liking mushrooms or preferring math to history. Just a fact about her life, nothing more. No pain in her voice, no shame or embarrassment, no wondering if she was the problem or if she should try harder to fix things. I watched her finish her apple and toss the core in the trash. She asked if she could go to the library with friends tomorrow. I said yes, and she smiled and went upstairs to do homework. I stood in the kitchen alone, knowing she'd truly healed from what Gloria did to her. The wound had closed and she'd moved on. Nathan and I sat on our porch after Lily went to bed. The night air was cool and quiet. He took my hand and said our family was stronger now than it's ever been. I agreed, thinking about how far we'd come from that birthday party 8 years ago. Setting boundaries with Gloria wasn't about revenge or being cruel. It was about protecting our daughter. It was about teaching her that she deserves unconditional love from the people in her life. Sometimes that means walking away from people who can't provide it, even if they're family. Especially if they're family. Nathan squeezed my hand and we sat there together, watching the stars come out, knowing we'd made the right choice for our daughter and for ourselves.